Hi, it's David Gomm in the Stained Glass Studio. What I've done is I've taken a video that we sell on Amazon and I've split it into 3 separate videos. And this first one is just going to tell you about 2 stars that you can make. But it's a very long video because I go through each step in the process completely. Then on the other 2, they'll be shorter, not much shorter, but they'll also introduce you to other projects. And so I hope that this series of 3 will be really fun for you. Hi, it's David in the Stained Glass Studio. On this video, we're going to do something about stars. Now, you may ask yourself, why would there be a whole video on stars? And I guess I need to answer that by first of all saying that this PDF that you're going to get with the video has 28 pages. That's a lot of star information. This particular star right here doesn't appear on the PDF. And that's because this one is made from just simple strange triangles that have been put together in such a way that they're strong. You see, if I shake that, it doesn't fall off. Even though this triangle just butts up to these two. There's no strength to that, but this piece on the side, this little curlicue, helps to strengthen it. And that makes it a much stronger piece. And, you know, so does this jewel here. And this additional, all these curlicues are put in place so that they can make it stronger. Now, the reason I'm going on and on about this is because they're not in the PDF, and you may want to make one of these. Look, I've nipped off the corner here just for fun, just to make it different. This one up here doesn't make it stronger, but it does make it make a good hanger. So now I thought I would show you how I bend that kind of wire. This is regular household electric wire. If you get the kind of wire from your local hardware store that comes in a roll, more than likely it'll be lacquered wire, which puts on a coating that is very difficult to solder. So what you want to do is get your household wire and either strip it or get it that doesn't have the lacquer on it. Okay, so now just to make a rounded piece, I've got a pair of needle nose pliers and I just wind it around. I go from the other side and go in the opposite direction. See how that works? And you're welcome to experiment with it, and you can make them bigger or smaller or tighter. Sometimes I'll wind it in really tight and then just back it off a little bit, so that I have a better look. And so you can see that something like this could fit down inside this star. That's how those are made. All right, well, we might as well start with our PDF. The first pattern on the PDF is probably one of our easiest. This is a star with a jewel in it. Now, this PDF was drawn in such a way that it would use a 1 3/8 diameter jewel. If you had a smaller jewel, you just lay it down in here, trace around the jewel, and then extend these lines so that your pattern will fit the smaller jewel. On this one, I've got a jewel that's slightly bigger. So the first thing I'm going to do is lay it down directly over my pattern and you can see that the outside edge overlaps. So now I take my pencil and just kind of draw around it. Now that gives me the new sizes of this pattern piece. Now, if you'll notice, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all of them are the same. So we only need one copy of the pattern piece. So what we're going to do is lay down our cardboard, a piece of carbon paper, and our pattern. Now, normally when we trace a pattern, we put a couple of nails in. But because I'm going to be able to hold this at all times, I'm just going to quick-like trace this down. Now I copy the outside border Okay, now I've drawn that. Now I don't need special shears for this. I just have regular scissors. Okay, so there's our pattern piece. Now we'll be able to draw each one of these out on our glass that we want. I haven't decided what color of glass to make this star out of. I think I'll get I don't know. What have I got here? All right, purple it is. Now, because purple is a darker color, I am going to use a silver pen so that it shows up better. On the second one, I turn it around and reuse the same line. Now the cut line is going to be right there on this edge, and so when I trace it, I lay it right over where the cut's going to be. That way I only have to cut that edge one time for both pieces. Used to be that when we only had black markers, we would have to cut using a light box. On this one, I do the same thing and overlap. But now that we have a silver marker, you can actually see your line without the use of a light box. So usually I only use a light box to see what glass is going to look like before I cut it. Okay. I have to tap it a lot because my pen is drying out. 1, 2, 3, 4 is our last one. Okay, now we'll just do a quick cut. I'm using an oil-filled cutter, but I don't fill the cutter with oil. I dip every time, and you've probably seen that we use this orange oil blend that we've made for our studio. We've got orange essential oil, and it's mixed with a massage oil. Both of them are food grade. If you don't have it mixed with that massage oil, it will gum up your cutter. But it really smells nice. Okay, so now just firm, even pressure all the way across to the other side. Now I'll just start with my straight cuts. I'm scoring all these straight ones all at once. Now, then I break it off in the same order that I cut them. I've got a label on the back that's kind of holding it. And I just rock my hands apart. Now with the curved part, I just go ahead and score all of these little curves. Now on a curve, you can accidentally break off the little corner parts, but on these, it's not a very radical curve. So I pull out and down at the same time. Now we'll go ahead and just clip these corners off. Okay, so that's not too bad. Now we just break off the corners, and the next thing I do is grind them, and then they'll be ready to foil. They don't really need to be ground, but by grinding them, that ensures that I won't have any sharp edges that would accidentally cut me as I foil. So now I'll go over and grind it. Okay, we're in the grinding area. Now this is a Wizard grinder. We've got a couple of Wizard grinders. This is made by Wizard also. It's called a twin spin. The reason I like the Wizard grinder so much is that they have such a good 5-year warranty. Now one time when I had one of these bits get frozen, I couldn't take it off. And I had to use a gear puller on it, and I ended up ruining the grinder. But I didn't know how good their warranty was. Later on I found out because I had a new bit put on this one. Now, once I found that out, and the next time that this bit was frozen, I called them up. I got a code to send it back to them. I packaged it up and paid the UPS charge to send it to them. When it was returned to me, I sent them my new replacement bit as well. When it was returned to me, it was working great. They had just taken the old one off, put the new one on, all under warranty. I didn't have to pay for the return shipping. There were no fees. It was just great. And so since then, I have really felt that the Wizard warranty makes this grinder worth the money. All right, so now it's a diamond surface. You can't hurt yourself. You can touch it. It won't hurt your fleshy part. But if you need to grind your fingernails, I'm sure you can get a good manicure, because it just cuts hard stuff. Okay, so now I just go around my glass. Now I do grind in a little bit on the rounded part to give it a perfect smooth edge, and then everything else is just a quick pass. Just to make sure that, now you notice as I'm pushing against it, I'm pushing very gently, because I know that this side is sharp. I want to make sure that I don't push aggressively against a sharp piece of glass and cut myself. You notice that I'm not grinding off the silver part, and that's because, remember, this is the one part where it overlapped when I was tracing it. So it's absolutely the right size. You can see that as I'm grinding, I'm starting to get a little bit of, I can see a little bit of buildup on the glass, and so I know that I need to put a little bit more water. Now you don't want to put too much water, just a little bit. Now these come with a sponge. Sponge kind of looks like this, that sits in the back. On our grinders, what we've done is we have installed these brushes, and that brings the water up better. They're an aftermarket add-on piece. I think they're called Aquaflow. Anyhow, so now these are all ground. They're safe to touch. Look, there's no, you can't cut yourself. Let's hope you can't cut yourself. And so now they're ready to be dried, and then we'll foil them. Okay, so like I said, I have to dry these off. Now what I'm trying to do is get each one of them dry, but I'm also wiping the powdery stuff. There's powder on these. And I'm trying to get that off of the edge so that my foil tape will stick. I'm using 1/4 inch copper foil tape. You'll notice this is iridized on one side and not on the other. So I've got to make sure that I don't get them turned wrong. I think I'll want the iridized side up. See, I'm also having to rub off that silver marker. Now it's interesting. Silver marker is harder to rub off than the black. So we use it when we're grinding. We try to use it when we're grinding or cutting glass with a ring saw, so that we don't lose our line as quickly. Okay, so there we are. I've got those polished off, and here's my 1/4 inch foil. Now, you have to peel back the backing, and it leaves the sticky copper foil exposed. And what you do is you line it up, kind of eyeball it on either side, then use the fleshy part of your finger to push it against the edge of the glass and then sort of pinch it. Okay? Now we do the same thing, and we're just using our eyes to line up to make sure it's got the same amount on either side. And on the curved part, you kind of want to use your fleshy part of your finger to bend it over, and then we pinch it, and with any luck you won't break the foil. If you do, it doesn't really matter because there's a soldering technique that'll cover that. Okay. Now at the end, you can take your scissors, clip it off, now you want to take the burnisher, and when I use this tool, I pull towards the inside edge of the glass. And that keeps it from accidentally pulling off, and it also tightens it up. So now that I'm done, I make sure that the iridized side is up. And we'll do that with each one of these because I want them to be uniform. Now on this one, I'm going to do it a little bit differently. See, I've started at this edge with just a 1/4 inch, and I push that down onto the glass so that it sticks. Now I can come right around. I use this finger here to kind of steady the glass as I push then I push against my thumbnail to fold it over. Fleshy part again. Okay, what's different on this time is I'm going to show you how I finish off my glass pieces rather than the way we teach beginning students. So rather than using scissors to cut it, I just pull. It's almost like the action that you have when you rip off a piece of tape on a tape dispenser. See, so that saved me the motion of having to reach down, get the scissors, bring them over, and clip. And then sometimes, depending on the piece that I'm doing, if I'm doing a window, very often I will not burnish the foil down. When I'm doing a sun catcher, which is what this star is, I always burnish it down because I want it to be as tight as I can against this outer edge so that it'll have some strength. Now, these others are going to be the same motion, I'll be doing the same thing for these other star pieces, but this is a jewel. On the jewel, you kind of want to have a little bit more on this back, or a little bit less on the backside edge, and a little bit more on the front side because it's going up at an angle. Now, because it's at an angle, so I'm just crimping it over using my fingers. The fleshy part of my finger is pushing it over. Now I can push it down. Because this is going up at an angle and stopping sooner, when you look through it, it looks like you have the same amount showing. On the back side, you kind of want to hold it. All right. So you notice I kind of missed there. This side was shifted over a little bit, so it looks thinner on this side and it looks fatter on that side. And that's just, I just wasn't being as cautious as I need to be. Okay, so while I was foiling that, I let my iron heat up. Now I use a wet sponge to clean off the tip so it looks nice and shiny. Now I've got to use flux, which is a liquid flux. Now you'll notice that there's a little bit of a gap between the jewel and the star. So I could have actually cut more away. Wait a minute. I could have not cut any away, and it would have fit tighter. But I didn't know that was going to be the case. Now, I tried really hard not to knock it out of the way, but you saw I just pushed it over. So I can take one of my horseshoe nails and use it to center it back up. Now I fluxed all the way around here. Okay, so now that it's centered properly, now I can begin to tack it. Now as I tack solder, I melt the solder on the iron and let the drop down to the copper foil. Now this is the only time you do this, because you don't want to accidentally hit the piece and get it out of alignment, because then you're messing with melted solder and you really do have some problems. Okay, so now that I've got it tacked, now I solder it the right way. Now you want to make sure that you've got a good ventilated area when you're doing soldering. If you're soldering in your basement, you need a fan. You probably want to get one of those filtered type fans that they sell for soldering. If you're in a studio environment like we are right now, you can just open up a door or a window so that you get a good cross breeze ventilation. Now I touch and pull up. Touch and pull up. The melted solder is a liquid, and so it seeks its own level. So that's why touching, if you melt it and then touch and pull up, you'll get a nice even bead. And you want enough solder on here. If you just put a little bit of solder, so you just put a little, then it's dipped down. It goes down. It's not a good looking bead. But if you add more, you want it to round up over, and you're looking for the same amount of roundness all over. You see how some places it shrinks and you have to go back, touch it again. Okay, so now that is the interior. Now we want to do the outside edge. And so what I do now, you'll notice that I'm brushing on both the top and the side as I'm brushing here. Now I'll be able to tin these edges. Now one of the things you want to do as you tin the edges is you want to do it quickly. If you drag your iron very slowly, it heats up and wrinkles the copper foil, and that's not a good technique. So now what we do is we bring it up. I've got a little drop of solder on the edge of the iron, and I drag it along. And I drag it in such a way that it completely coats this edge, and a lot of times it does everything it needs to the top edge. I use my solder to help me turn the star around. Okay, now I've gotten it all the way around the outside edge. Now I can just take it and just run it quickly over this top edge. And like I said, don't stay on it and make it too hot, or else it'll wrinkle up. Thin it out, make it look ugly, and it'll be weak. Okay, now, okay, so that side's done. Now we can flip it over. Try not to burn yourself. Now look at that. I have a special board where I've got a hole drilled in it for Jules to sit in as I solder this back side. But I'm just going to do it without this special hole because you want to be able to see how it's done. And this side's even easier than the other side because you just touch and see, I'm touching and pulling over to the side because it's at an angle. It's more convenient. Okay, now I've got that portion done. Now I can just drag down here, drag down here. If you get a place where it bubbles through, you can just heat it, remelt it. People worry about the little black specks that form. Those are fine. They just clean right off when you're done. Now, on a regular star where there might be a point that's not the same, you want to decide which one is the top. On this, it doesn't matter. Now, this is one of those split rings, and it's got a little split in it. You can see the split right here. You want to get the split into the part of the star that you're going to solder. Now you see I'm holding it in such a way, let's see, I want it to actually have a space on either side so we can get fishing line in either side. Now the reason I'm soldering it this far down instead of doing it up here is that by doing this, then I have points that are soldered here, 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 and here. In fact, I think I'm going to get a bigger ring so that you can see how it's going on. This is quite a bit bigger of a ring. We usually use these on very large windows that need a lot of strength. See, now you can see the split is right there. And when I place it here, you see, now I got a pretty good gap. Let's see, so now I could put a piece of fishing line through here or through here. Now remember to flux it. I get a little bit of solder. when you're soldering your ring, you want to make sure that you only solder one part at a time so that it doesn't melt off on you. And there's the finished star. The only thing that we need to do now is clean it. And cleaning it is a very important process. What I like to do is use Quick Clean. And here's my Quick Clean, and I just spray it down, and I spray it good enough so that it's wet. I want it wet on both sides. This kind of neutralizes the flux. On a piece like this, that's not going to be patinaed, I just use a rag and wipe it off good. If a powder starts to form or a tarnishing starts to form on your piece, you can use regular window cleaner to clean it off. Okay, and see how shiny and pretty it is. This is ready to go over in our finished pile over on the table. Okay, I think that was pretty good instruction, and I hope you enjoyed the camera work and all, and then I hope it was good enough and interestingly enough that you'll want to come back and watch the other two videos. All right, thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next time.